month, we will be talking about initiative. Initiative is seeing what needs to be done and doing it. All month, we'll look at the life of a man who showed a lot of initiative and took on a very important job. His name was Nehemiah. Nehemiah had a pretty important job as the cupbearer to a king. That meant that he was always with the king, and before the king would drink anything, Nehemiah would taste it first to make sure it was safe. The king trusted Nehemiah with his very own life. Now you're in for a treat today because as the events of this story unfold, we get to listen in on what Nehemiah might have written in his journal. We don't know if Nehemiah had a journal, but if he did, it might have sounded something like this. My brother Han and I returned today from a trip to Judah. I asked him about the people and the city of Jerusalem. He and the men with him said to me, "Some of the people who returned are still alive. They are back in the land of Judah, but they are having a hard time. They are ashamed. The wall of Jerusalem is broken down. Its gates have been burned with fire." Uh-oh, that is not good. During this time in history, everyone knew that a city without walls was in danger of being attacked. Nehemiah was heartbroken to hear this news, and he wept. Nehemiah prayed to God. He reminded God of the promise God had made to his people, that if they returned to him, he would bring them back. Months passed. One day, the king noticed that Nehemiah looked sad. In his journal, he might have written, "Today the king asked me if I was sad. I told him what happened. I told him the wall of Jerusalem had been destroyed, and I asked him to let me go and rebuild it. I also asked the king to give me letters to all of the governors in the land so that I could have permission to travel safely. And that's not all. I asked him for a letter to the keeper of the royal park so I could have logs to build with. The king gave me everything I asked for, and he's even sending army officers to keep me safe. I'm so grateful for the king's kindness to me. I wonder who will taste his drinks, though." Nehemiah had everything he needed for the journey. He traveled to Jerusalem to see what he could do to help. In his journal, he might have written this: "I've made it to Jerusalem. It was a long journey, but I know that God is with me. I wanted to see the wall of the city and find out how badly damaged it is. It was dark, but we went out to look at the wall. I'm not going to lie, it looks pretty bad. But with God's help, I believe we can rebuild it." Nehemiah had seen the damage to the wall, and he knew that something had to be done about it. God's people needed to be safe. Their city shouldn't be a pile of rubble. So Nehemiah took initiative. He told the officials, "You can see the trouble we're in. Jerusalem has been destroyed. Fire has burned up its gates. Come on, let's rebuild the wall of Jerusalem. Then people won't be ashamed anymore." The officials agreed with Nehemiah. They said, "Let's start rebuilding." The rest of the people of Jerusalem got on board too, and they got to work. And we're just getting started because all month we'll continue the story of Nehemiah and see how it all turns out. God moved the hearts of the people to want to help Nehemiah. And together, they began the gigantic job of repairing the walls and gates of Jerusalem. Nehemiah knew that it was important for someone to do something to help. So why not him? First, he took the initiative to see the problem for himself. Then he helped the people see how God could work through them as they made plans to rebuild. With God's help, they could work together to make the city strong and safe. Nehemiah's story shows us something important that we can also do today. Here it is. It's our bottom line. Don't wait for someone else to do what needs to be done. When we see something that needs to be done, we don't have to wait around and hope that someone else will take care of it. We can jump into action and make it better together. What a cool story. It's pretty amazing how Nehemiah took the initiative to help the people of Jerusalem. I mean, Nehemiah wasn't even living in Jerusalem. Remember, he was far away in Persia. So it would have been easy for him to think, well, that's too bad about what happened, about what they're going through, but maybe someone else will do something to help. That's not what Nehemiah did, is it? Nope. He decided that he would be the one to help. He asked the king to let him go to Jerusalem. He saw the damage for himself. Then he rallied the troops, rallied the people to start rebuilding. I think it's safe to say that God worked through Nehemiah in a big way. God can work through us too. Remember our basic truth. We can trust him no matter what. He can help us see the things around us that need to be done or the people who need our help. He can help us take initiative and do something to lend a hand. Remember, our bottom line, don't wait for someone else to do what needs to be done. We can also look at the life of Jesus and see how he took initiative. When Jesus saw a need, he did something about it. He healed people who needed healing. He taught people who needed to learn. And Jesus took care of our greatest need when he died on the cross for our sins. So this week, let's try to see what needs to be done around us. Then, let's do something about it. If you see your dirty socks lying on the floor, take a moment, take initiative, and toss them in the hamper. If you see that your brother or your sister forgot to feed the fish, don't go tell your mom that he forgot. Feed the fish for him and let him know you've got it covered. If you notice that one of your friends seems sad, don't just walk on by. Stop and ask him or her what's wrong. Maybe he or she just needs a good friend like you to ask her and to let her know that you care. Here's our memory verse for this month. It comes from Colossians chapter 3, verse 23. Work at everything you do with all your heart. Work as if you were working for the Lord. Thanks, guys. See you soon.